Yes, welcome to the Daily Huddle. Today we're talking about how your astrology or how you can use astrology to grow your spiritual journey. I'm your host, Dr. Monica Ogando. I'm excited that I'm here with you. So how many of you, put a one in the chat, how many of you are familiar with astrology? You know at least your sun sign. You know if you were born on such and such date, then you're this sign, and that you get along with these people that are this sign. Okay, yeah, so the most of you. And so there's so many nuances in astrology that some folks don't realize that astrology is actually one of the first known, oldest human sciences. And we have used astrology since time immemorial and used the position of planets and stars in order to discern what our position is in our own lives, right? And so when you start to understand that spirituality isn't a compartment of your life, but rather it is an encompassing orchestra, then everything, every science, every personality assessment, every framework serves to further illustrate the context of spirituality that is your life. And this is what this entire summer series has been about. It has been about you understanding that everything in your life, whatever angle you approach it, leads to your spiritual journey. You can use money to your spiritual journey. You can use your food for your spiritual journey. You can use your sex for your spiritual journey, your relationships, your grief, your loss, your everything, every part of your life can be used to further. Astrology is no different. So, one of the ways that you can get started with understanding yourself more from an astrological perspective, you can go to a place called astro.com, astro.com, and you plug in your birth date, time, and place. You need all three: birthplace, time, and date. In order to understand, you'll get like a natal chart, right? Now, real basic, I'm going to give you the real basic stuff. This is metaphysical wisdom, okay? It's not just woo-woo. I mean, it is woo-woo, but it's woo-woo with substance. And so what happens is you get your natal chart and you will see that there are 12 houses inside of this pie called your natal chart. And those 12 houses each represent a domain of your life. What I want you to see is your first house, which is your ascendant. It is your rising sign. Whatever planets you have in your ascendant are the ones that are most useful to how you show up in the world. Okay? If you don't have any planets in the first house, do not worry about it. That does not mean you're deficient. It just means you have other things to work with. Okay? So the reason why I bring up the rising sign or the ascendant is because sometimes you will say your sun sign and there's nothing about you that shows up like that sun sign. You show up like some other sign. Let me give you an example. I am a Pisces sun. My birthday is March 19. I was born on the cusp of Pisces and Aries. And Pisces is stereotypically, archetypally known as very sensitive and intuitive, soft, tender, very like fairy-like. And have we met? While yes, I am sensitive and yes, I am intuitive, that's not what I lead with. I lead with science. I lead with thinking. I lead with research and make sure that you got the right information and let me educate you and da 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 da, right? And so, and who does that? Aquarius does that for the greater good of the collective. And Aquarius happens to be my rising sign. And so when you understand certain things, like, oh, my moon, for example, is in Scorpio. And so what does that mean? That means that energetically, emotionally, I go deep. Scorpio is very deep. It's very transformative. And Liz, can you handle that Zoom troll that's in there? And so then what that leads is that I create intimacy very quickly, right? Because I go deep quickly, and it's safe to go deep quickly with me. And I'm intuitive, and I can sense kind of like the conversation underneath the conversation. So when you know these things about yourself, you don't scare yourself into thinking you're too much or not enough. When you understand how you are designed, then it allows you an opportunity to get curious about how other people are designed and how you interact with that synastry. It's called synastry in astrology. So when you're dating somebody, for example, or when you are about to hire somebody, or when you are about to go into a work project together, then you can see what their strengths are and how your strengths play off of theirs, or what challenges you may have because you're not aligned in your strengths properly, right? So it gives you things to watch out for and prepare for. So the way that this moves you along in your spiritual journey is that it's not only about your personal astrology, but it's also about the collective astrology. So if you've been on YouTube, or if you've been in any kind of astrology channel on social media or whatever, then you'll know that we're in the middle of a Mercury retrograde. And Mercury retrograde, that just means that communication goes haywire. Uh, um, sometimes emails get lost, and sometimes communications get misunderstood, etc. And so what you want to do is, when you understand that, you take precautions. You dot your T's, you dot your I's and cross your T's. You double check, you send a send receipt, right? And so it's not so much that it is a predictor, so much as it is just kind of like telling you the weather. And when you understand the weather, if you know it's going to be raining, you can grab an umbrella. If you know it's going to be snowing, you can grab your snow boots. So it doesn't leave you out in the lurch like that, right? And it's very useful to understand those patterns, just like the year has four seasons and 12 months, so does astrology have 12 signs and four types of signs. There are cardinal signs, fixed signs, well, three types, but four elements, right? Fire signs, water signs, earth signs, and air signs. And when you understand that, for example, let me give you an example. Pisces, Pisces is a mutable sign, and it is a water sign. So what that means is mutable, it just kind of goes with the flow, and the water goes with the flow, right? But Scorpio is a fixed water sign. So it balances it out with the mutable. It's like we're not just gonna go with the flow, okay? We're gonna sustain some stuff, we're gonna carry some stuff, right? And Aquarius is an air sign. And so instead of swimming in all this water, an air sign allows you to think, allows you to envision, allows you to move in the mental realm as well, not just in the emotional realm. So I say all this to say that when you understand your personal astrology, and when you understand how the collective astrology is moving, then you make more informed decisions about where you are, where you want to be, when to make certain moves, right? So I have learned through experience not to launch any products or services during a Mercury retrograde. It's gonna be too wrought with, breakdowns and things that just don't go through or don't work, or it's not worth it. It's just not worth it to me. um, and so when you know how to do that, when you know predictive astrology in that way, then you know how to flow with the energy that is already happening, instead of having to like fight through, because this is you exerting your personal will. I was telling somebody earlier yesterday that you can tell the difference between people who live on the planet, who are just like here and it's just consuming stuff, versus people who live with the planet and work with cycles and work with seasons and work with nature and work with what is here, and are consider themselves stewards of our resources instead of just consumers of them. And we do that with each other as well. So what questions do you have? Let's get some dialogue going, because if you have questions about this, I can rattle off what I know and share as much as I know and give you some resources so you can look further. So, who has a question or commentary? Okay, Florence, go ahead.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My question is that I don't know how to find the time that I was born, and like my parents are gone, and anybody who could tell me is
Yeah.
gone, and I'm not sure. I have a vague idea that it might have been an evening time, like like the 7-ish, but I don't
Yeah.
know, and I don't know
Okay.
how to find out.
Okay, that's a great question, and a lot of people have that concern. Here's a couple of ways that you can handle this. So one way is to, when you go to astro.com and you plug in a particular time, let's say that you think, I'm going to start with 7 o'clock at night, just because that's as close a guess as I can get, right? And it yields a particular natal chart. Let's say, for example, based on your personality that you show up curious and you show up playful and you show up, describing your personality. And I'm going to say, oh, okay, that sounds like a Gemini. Maybe she's a Gemini rising because she's big on communication and she's very playful and creative. And sometimes she changes her mind a lot, et cetera, right? And so, but when you put in the time, it shows up like it's a Taurus rising. It's like, well, no, she's not really like that. Okay, what is happening? No, we're not doing that today. We're not doing that today. So you want to make sure that you have you can go back and change the time to something that sounds more like you. Because when you change the time, you change the rising sign. So try 8 o'clock, try 9 o'clock, try 10 o'clock, try 11 o'clock, and see how that changes the sign and see if that speaks to more of who you are. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is I use a pendulum as an oracular tool, and I'll ask the pendulum, excuse me, the way my pendulum is programmed is that if it does a circle like this, it means a yes. If it does a line like back and forth like this, it means a no. And so I'll say, for example, my name is Monica, and it'll give me yes because I'm testing it to see that it's going to give me a yes for real. My name is Florence, and it's supposed to give me a no because my name is not Florence, right? So once I establish that baseline of yes and no, then I can ask it questions like my birth time is 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever. And when you get a yes, use that and see and move forward in that way. I mean, it ultimately is a guessing game, but you want to get as close as possible to your time in that way. Okay, is that helpful? Florence, is that helpful to you?
Yes, thanks. But this because I have no idea, where if that record, especially of the time, is still available to me,
Yeah. So just do the guessing the best way that you can. Yeah, don't
Yes,
do
yes.
yourself.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who else has a question or comment? It's so interesting to me that we have trolls today. That must mean we're getting very popular. Yeah, because if you have nothing to do, the Daily Huddle will get you straight. We'll help you get useful. Okay, who else has a question? I am here for you.
I have a question. It's
Yes.
more of a comment. It's more of a comment. I like the fact that you bring us these different perspectives, but particularly as they may line up with or relate to religious interpretations or beliefs or lack of those religious beliefs or whatever. And you said something key to me that stuck out is that astrology was I believe you said the very first science that actually was really a systematic study of how can we understand this universe and
Yes.
ourselves. And
Yeah.
I like the fact that what religion tends to do is to make us believe that anything, if it isn't saying directly saying God did this, so and so and so, is trying to disprove God, or that it is in fact not of God. right? And the reality of it is that there is good in all of these. It was a science that was attempting to explain this universe. And in fact, there's a lot of knowledge in not just explaining it, but saying this is what it's about.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it there. And that in other words, we should have more of an open mind, but we're taught so much to be closed-minded on things because maybe not so much because they really want you to be closed-minded. But the reality of it is that you really just can't learn about everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
To really know. So focus on one thing, really, really get it down good. And, you God bless you. Hopefully the universe will bless you that your mind is open. But it almost means you do have to have a closed mind in a way because you can't learn everything. So if you know that, you got to kind of close your mind out to some things, but it doesn't mean really being closed-minded.
Well, I think you be focused, not closed-minded, but just focus on one particular thing.
You focus on one particular thing. That's a much better term. You focus on one thing, but it's not. It's cool to have knowledge and not turn off and say this is negative. Well, that's astrology. That's of the devil. Or this is so and so and so. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because a lot of those interpretations were wrong interpretations.
Yes. So let me give you some background on that because you bring up an excellent point. Thank you for that, Stan. When religion became a tool of the government to control its citizenry, then they started in putting some rules as to what you can and cannot do, and then started to vilify those things to make sure that the citizenry stays away from it.
Wow.
So that aims to control you doesn't want you to be self-directed or self-learned or self-educated or self-governed because they want to govern you. And so if you have tools such as understanding the cycles of nature for your own sovereignty, understanding the cycles of planets and stars for your own sovereignty, then yeah, we're going to make it like this. It's a devil thing. But if it's a devil thing, how come the folks that were worshiping God was also using it? So we have to use our critical thinking skills in order to understand and discern which pieces belong to us and which are not. Some people are not interested in astrology, and that doesn't mean that astrology is bad. It just may not be their cup of tea. Whereas other people are head over heels with tarot, for example, as an oracular tool. And so, but this comes from a place of critical thinking and discernment, not from a place of punishing or poo-pooing something just because you think it's evil, etc. So I love that you brought that up, and thank you so much, Stan, for your contribution.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you.
Rose, you got something?
Good morning.
Hello.
So I came on a little bit late, and I want to participate in the conversation. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to outright ask you.
Yes.
What is the intention? Like, what is your intention to leave us with out of our conversation today? And then I will know how to jump in and share.
Oh, well, just like everything that we've been doing in the summer series is bringing up a particular topic and how you can use it to further your spiritual journey. That's in the topic.
Well, that doesn't get me to a question.
Do
you have a question about astrology?
Well, I mean, always. I mean, I find it a fascinating subject. To me, it's just not just as in diminishing it, but I mean, we live in the world.
Yes.
We live on the planet.
Yes.
And it has its intention and its expressions.
Yeah.
In life. And so, our astrology is an opportunity to interact or interface with that. And of course, I'm always curious about, I'm a Libra, October 14. And so, and I haven't actually looked at the impact that is having on my life at this time. So it's a curiosity. And I'm like, oh, it's like I feel like I've been wakened to something. So I'm listening for
excuse me,
what question I would ask. And but I wasn't grounded. So I just wanted to.
That's okay. So one of the things you may have missed, one of the things that I said is that there's your personal astrology in terms of like your rising sign, your moon sign, where your planets are, what house and so forth, what's happening in your house of occupation, what's happening in your house of personal resources, etc. And then there's what's happening collectively which are where the transits are. Like right now, I mentioned that right now, Mercury is in retrograde. And some people may be like, I don't know who Mercury is and what retrograde has to do with me. But there's a stereotype of like when Mercury is in retrograde, it means all communication goes haywire because Mercury is the planet of communication and so forth. And that may be. But where is Mercury retrograde in your life? If it's, for example, retrograde in your house of relationships, then this might be an opportunity to review how you communicate with the people in your life. If it's in your house of profession, then maybe it's about reviewing how communication is influenced in work, right? And so that's the play between individual and collective, so that you understand how to move with the energies, but also so you understand what kind of water you're swimming in. And when you understand that, then there's some things that you can be more patient with, right? So there's like, if it's winter outside, you know to bring your snow boots or your umbrella or your coat, but in your house it may be warm, even though it's still December all around. But over here we have a fireplace. Over here we have, right? So you may have different tools to strengthen yourself personally, even though collectively some things may be happening, and vice versa. And so astrology allows you to use the position of planets and stars to understand that. Just like there are personality assessments that tell you about how you think and how you digest information and how you make decisions and so forth. In the same way, astrology gives you an overall picture of how your soul curriculum and how your personality align to move in the world. And it's fascinating because it's, like I said before, it's the oldest documented science that human beings have spent a lot of time, millennia, studying and mastering. So if the ancient gurus and teachers of old knew to look to astrology to help inform them about how they wanted to move in the world, I'm going to pay attention. And I also understand that who has a vested interest in you not looking at certain things? Who has a vested interest in you not using your critical thinking? I pay attention to that, right? So I want you to use all of your domains of mastery, not just the ones that are assigned by the government or by science, et cetera, et cetera.
So just one quick question. Then, so like when you said Mercury is in retrograde, if there's something negative going on, does that mean Mercury in retrograde can create the possibility of something positive taking its place? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, nothing is inherently positive or negative. It just is. So it's like, it's winter. For some people like me, I don't like the cold. So me, it's negative because I don't like the cold. But there's a lot of useful stuff there. I can stay home and stay cozy. I can wear really stylish coats and boots and just rock it out fashion-wise, right? So there's a way to alchemize the thing that you would, because of your own personality and your own preferences, you think it's negative. But it is not negative inherently. It's not negative for everybody. If it's not negative for everybody, then it's not universally so, right? It's a perception definition, not an inherent definition, right? So yeah, you learn to use it.
Love that. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you for commenting. Giovanni says, I love Rose. That's right. We all love Rose. She knows how to bring it. Who else is here that wants to ask a question or comment? Yes, Giovanni, come on up.
The villain.
Dun, dun, dun.
Lately, I've been reminiscing. I've been reflecting on this possibility for my life of less suffering or no suffering, and for me. And this conversation that you're having today takes me back to my teenage years, because that's when it was mostly active in my life, when people talk about astrology and in my life. Like, did you read it? Do you resonate with it? Yeah. This is really going to tell you what your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your friends are going to do next month.
Right.
And I remember being really triggered by it. Like, no, It's all made up. Stop it. And I
Right, right.
remember being mad at my friends for trying to tell me I am a Leo and therefore they know me, because I'm like, no, you don't know me from the magazine. Like, and etc. And today I'm in this, creating this possibility for myself of no suffering. And I'm noticing suffering around it.
Suffering around not suffering? Yes.
And suffering around the conversation. Like, no, like this is not an access to spirituality. The planets cannot be my access to spirituality. It's just not. Reflection might be my access, not the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, and then, thank God Rose spoke before me, because she brought intellectual effort in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, what would it be possible for me to play with the conversation? What would be available to me?
Yeah.
Not like I'm trying to get something out of it, like who cares? But just what's available to be playful with it and allow the planets to say something. I don't know. So anyway, that was my comment. That was where I am right now.
I love it. Thank you. And progress. Can we say progress? Because, from no, absolutely not to, well, maybe. I will consider that progress. And, like a good scientific mind, there's that level of exploration. There's like, let's test the hypothesis. Let's see if there's something there. That's what scientists do.
I certainly have been wrong before.
I mean, the one or two times that this has happened.
Like one time, I don't know.
Yeah, a very long time ago. Thank you, Giovanni. That's awesome. And finally, we have Mr. Chase. Come on over, Chase.
Grim Rising,
Hello.
great talk. Always nice to see you.
You
I'm curious, specifically with you.
Okay.
How did your relationship or your marriage, when it began,
Yeah.
how far after you met your husband did you ask him his astrological sign? And do you feel like,
as soon as we met.
Oh, right, as soon as you met.
Yeah, I need your data, sir.
Right. So when you realized, what is your husband?
He's a Virgo.
A Virgo. When you realized he was a Virgo, and I've asked this question to other people, what's that space in between letting somebody be who they are and going, oh, you're a Virgo. Okay. You follow what I'm saying? Like, what was your process? Were you like, I like this guy, I'm gonna hang out with him or whatever? Oh, you're a Virgo? Okay, I have to watch out for this, and this. Or did you just let it happen?
Both. I know enough about astrology to know that somebody cannot be reduced to their sun sign, just like you can't be reduced to being your gender or your race or your generation or your geographic location. All New Yorkers are not the same. All men are not the same. All Black people are not the same. So in the same way, all Virgos are not the same, and so forth, right? So that just comes with the territory. But the other thing is that it made me curious about other stuff. Like, okay, you're a Virgo sun, but what's your rising? Because that's your personality. What's your moon? Because that's how you handle emotions. Where's your Venus? Because that's what you consider beautiful and valuable, and so forth, right? And so I started just getting curious about all the things, all the nuances that make up who this person is. And it's just a really good, for me, I can only speak for myself, for me, it's a really good place to start off with just being curious about the human being in front of you without imputing certain preconceived notions about who you think they might be without knowing them. And so it allowed me to get curious about certain things. I know, for example, that Pisces and Virgo are diametrically opposed. So I knew that there was going to be some level of going back and forth, some things that we didn't agree with, some opposites attract kind of situation. And sure enough, it was there, but not in the way that I thought. And then some people think, oh, you always end up marrying if you're a woman, you always end up marrying your father, or if you're a man, you always end up marrying your mother. No, actually, I ended up marrying my mother in an archetypal kind of way, because they're both Virgos and so forth. So it was helpful to to have this information without letting the information run me. It's not a predictor in that sense. It's just kind of like I told you, like a weather. It's like a weather report. It's like, oh, it's gonna, it's gonna be cloudy, or it's gonna be sunny, or it's gonna rain, or whatever, and then you plan accordingly. Whether you're gonna take this route to work or whether you're gonna wear this that day, etc. Yeah.
Right. I understand that. I get it. You and I are close. You're Pisces close to Aries, and I'm Aries. You're March 19th, is that what you said?
Yeah.
And I'm March 28th. So we're close in that way.
Yeah, I'm the end of Pisces, and you're the very beginning, the first week of Aries. Yeah.
Right. And I've heard people say, "Oh, which is fine, Aries." Oh, Aries. Like I've heard that so many times. I'm like, okay, are you good? They're like, yeah.
It's incomplete data, Chase. It's incomplete data.
I'm like, what?
You're not just your sun sign. You're like 10 different planets and stars, and where they are influences a lot. So
I know it. I know it.
Now it all makes sense why Chase is this way.
Says the astrology is hooey guy.
Yes, now I get it. Okay.
That's fantastic.
Funny. That's
That's
funny.
good. Thank you, Chase, for bringing that up. Yeah, don't dismiss people just because there's a particular, like J-Lo has been known to do that. She doesn't work with Virgos because she's a Leo. Come on. You're not just this one thing. And even if you were just this one thing, you are also the author and creator of your experience. You could alchemize that into a different result. But that's a different sermon for another Sunday. We will get to that.
Indeed.
We are 3 minutes past, so I want to thank you all for being here in this chapter of the Spiritual Matters Thursdays. Of course, we love you, and we want you to love generously, spend of your time, give of your time, energy, attention, mastery, love, eat more plant-based, stress less, sleep at least 7 to 9 hours, and exercise. Remember that twerking is a spiritual Kundalini raising practice. I've told you this. And audit your assumptions. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Just because that's the way you have it doesn't mean that's the way it is. You are displaying a sign of intelligence when you check yourself, not when you position yourself. We love you. See you next time.
Okay, back.